What's up everyone? Today we're going to be doing a video on deceit, and specifically we're going to be considering makeup. Women wearing makeup. I think this is something that's had some debate over the years on the internet for quite a while. Basically the whole idea of if a girl puts on makeup, is that considered being a fraud or being deceitful, etc., etc. And obviously you can extend this to other stuff like plastic surgery, plastic boobs going from an A cup to a double D, and many other things. Dyeing your hair from brunette to blonde, and on and on and on. And it can be extended to the male gender, such as a man who rents a very expensive car like a Porsche or Maserati and pretends it's his own in order to pretend to be rich and attract more women. So all of these specific instances and examples I've given have their own specific details, and therefore I would approach each one differently. You can't just blanket statement all of them, but I do want to give my opinions on them. First off, I do think that most of these things are generally socially accepted, and that's one of those things that's very interesting, because even if it is deceitful, it's socially accepted. So generally most people don't have too big a problem with it, and if they do, they just discount it in their minds. So some people, heck, when they see someone with fake boobs, they are taken aback. But generally, unless it's very, very obvious it's fake, either they don't notice, which again spurs debate about whether it's right or wrong, or there's the fact that they notice, but they really very much like it. I've met people of all these categories, and surprisingly, I find it astounding how many of all ages, middle school, high school, and adults, who actually don't mind and actually enjoy it when they have fake breasts. It's kind of bizarre. It's like I tell them it is fake, it is not real, and they're like, I don't care, it looks better, I like it better, which is somewhat true, but for some reason we do have that sort of natural inclination to prefer it if it's natural. So all these things sort of play together with evolutionary biology. Basically the whole idea is the whole purpose of everything is survival and reproduction. So we have a bunch of hidden subconscious emotions and reactions and behaviors that are not geared to be the most rational or make the most sense. They're geared to make you survive the longest and have the most offspring you can, and have your offspring survive until they can reproduce. And therefore, some things may not make any sense, but we have them nowadays because we are geared towards that evolutionary behaviorism, because it somehow helped us in our past. And because of the slow rate of evolution compared to the rapid rate of environmental change that we've been able to accomplish, building skyscrapers and so forth, we are still sort of we have a lot of, long story short, outdated behaviors, which I've mentioned countless times in other videos. So back to the topic. Let's just get down to my opinion on the topic, and again, these are just my opinions. As far as makeup goes, it is pretty much generally socially accepted, and I think there's so many hidden factors that play into it. Some of them that I probably haven't recognized myself, and probably you haven't recognized, and this goes for all of these instances. For instance, you probably never realized that, hey, okay, it is somewhat deceitful, but the fact is that because we're opening it up to every woman, it's an open playing field, every woman now has the ability and the freedom to use makeup themselves. So sure, this woman may be deceiving, quote unquote deceiving others, by making herself a lot more pretty than she could ever naturally be by putting up all this makeup on her face. However, every other woman has that opportunity, so any advantage, again, you always have to look at relativeness. how much of an advantage you have relative to others, not just how much of a boost you get. Because if everyone else is getting the same boost, it's similar to this is a analogy Warren Buffett used for companies, and a different topic, but it's similar to if you're watching a parade and everyone in the first row who's watching the parade stands up on tiptoes. Then everyone else behind them stands up on tiptoes, and now everyone's straining their feet, and there's no real significant advantage any one person has. You're back to the same even playing field. So it's the same sort of thing in a lot of different scenarios. Having said that, though, there's also other hidden factors. Just to name a few to illustrate the point. What about the fact that you get to a point where, despite how great makeup is, it can come to a point where it's pretty obvious that you have all this makeup caked on. Makeup, by its nature, it still looks not natural when you put enough on. And at that point, it's like, I can't. It's very obvious this person has makeup on, and so people sort of take that into account. And obviously, there are instances, and there are hundreds of other factors, like the fact that if you choose to marry this girl or make this a serious relationship, you're gonna wake up with this girl without makeup on, and then you'll know how she truly looks. Boom. So all these factors sort of play into it, in my opinion, and it's just like, it's not that simple, and generally certain things sort of even each other out. I'm not saying everything's all fair and all's fair in this competition now, and makeup is not deceitful, but it is not as deceitful as you think. But in other ways, it can still be very much deceitful. I mean, sure, if I were to just walk into a scenario, like a party or a restaurant or something, and I see a woman, and she does it right, and I've seen plenty of people who do it right, you can't tell it's really makeup. And even if you do, it doesn't look like she has caked up makeup on, even if she spent hours putting on caked up makeup, 5 pounds of it, and boom, she looks really, really good, and you would definitely not have that huge reaction if you didn't have it, but you can't even realize it because you're seeing her for the first time and you can barely tell. There's so many little memes and videos on YouTube of beauty gurus, and they basically some of these memes and pictures illustrate before and after. And some of them are just so extreme to the point it's just like crazy. The female before and after the makeup, it's just a complete change, and it's so ridiculous. She looks like a bombshell after, and then a completely different person before. And it's those sort of things that play into it. And obviously, then there's the capacity and ability of the receiving party, the male gender or the female gender if you're lesbian, to differentiate and say, hey, beauty's not the most important thing to me, or the willpower to say beauty's not the most important thing to me and actually mean it, because some people say that and then their bodies react differently. I need to work on that myself. But for sure, it's like one of those things where you, like, some people, the smarter the person, I feel like generally they're better at this. That may just be, a myth though. But I feel like the people who don't really put that much emphasis on it, they won't be affected by it, and therefore, how deceitful is it if you're looking for a wife who's intelligent and you don't really emphasize beauty in that picture. And then finally, just to bring back the point, there's one last thing I want to say. Let me just think here. As far as beauty is concerned, you can only do so much with makeup. You can put it on your face, maybe put it on your arms, maybe your chest, but it's generally for your face, right? And therefore, ultimately, you can only do so much. And therefore, although it's being deceitful, like, all the deceit in the world can only do so much to a certain extent. Like sure, it can do a lot, but still, like you end up, it can. Science has not come to a point where it can look as great as people who are natural. And even then, it's like, okay, she was naturally born with this, or maybe she worked really, really hard for many years in the gym to attain this body. And then, even then, it's just like, okay, that's great and stuff. But that's just one quality of a person. Not every guy only emphasizes looks. And even if they do, and they're looking for a wife, they're being stupid and they may screw themselves over, because the most attractive girl could be very, very unintelligent, a complete mess with finance, a bunch of other reasons like personality, horrible wife material, horrible personality, horrible mother, etc. So looks, it's one factor, but it's just one quality of many. And having said that, though, it still is somewhat deceitful. It has the potential to be quite deceitful. If you have a girl who is maybe she's somewhat short, she's brunette, yada yada yada, and then she gets her hair dyed blonde, she gets she changes her chest size from A to a D, she goes into the nightclub or whatever with high heels on, blonde hair, all this makeup, she knows how to work her makeup. Boom, she can look completely different. And so it's one of those things, and ultimately this whole idea of deceit and all this concern about it, I think, comes from, again, evolutionary biology, where the man wants to find the most fruitful, healthy girl to create the most healthy offspring so that they have a higher chance of survival. And I think my theory, and it's just a theory, is that subconsciously we understand this purpose, and therefore we are sort of utilizing this with our conscious understanding that, hey, these females are now capable of altering their appearance to look healthy or more attractive, despite them not actually being so. So I guess you get the point, and that's ultimately what I want to say in a nutshell. Now, just to touch on the other instances I used, a guy using a car, he's going to be found out eventually. A girl who falls for that for the long term, kind of, she's kind of in the same boat as the guy, not that smart. And then as for the other instances, like, breast implants or dyeing your hair blonde and so forth, ultimately, I definitely feel like it is something that's like, okay, wow, that's actually what she looks like. But then there are females who maintain that for the rest of their lives. They're brunettes, but they're dyeing their hair blonde for the rest of their lives, for 10, 20 years until they're dead. So it's kind of like, it's hard to say. And obviously, I guess some of the stuff is superfluous, but the biggest thing, though, is, I guess, if you're looking to marry someone, you want to make sure that they don't just one day, once 5 years into your marriage, decide to just give it all up, or maybe even 2 months into your marriage, all of a sudden they're like, okay, I'm clear now, and they just let this veil drop, and they're not just a completely different person on the outside, but on the inside too, or either or and yeah, it can definitely cause a lot of problems and divorce. So that's all I really want to say about the issue. I do think every now and then, once in a while, a girl who dresses up and puts on makeup and just exemplifies her potential for beauty is a great thing. I mean, I think a guy should do it too. And yeah, for me, I definitely need more initiative to work on my fashion and more time, grooming and stuff like that. The whole joke. A girl spends hours doing this stuff, and then a lot of guys, they just wake up in the morning, splash some water on their face, and then go to work. Heck, some of them don't even splash water on their face. Some of them just walk out of bed, put on anything that's closest to them, and then walk out the door. So it's one of those things where it's like, it's disjointed, it's caused by culture and so forth. But that's all I really want to say. It's always like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys later.